So we're now going to look at the timeline, and this is a great method for basically looking back over a project over time and learning from our experience of it. And the way you do the timeline is you agree at the far end of the paper a start date, and then along that date line you put a nice red line like this. And this is the time frame. So we could go from, say, 2019 to 2020, something like that. And anything above the line we call highlights. So we put that there. So we think about what our highlights are. And then below the line, this way, we put our lowlights. And then with another pen, we, as a small group, tell the story of a particular project we've been involved in. So I work at a homeless hostel, and so this last year has been quite challenging with the whole COVID situation. But we're a really strong group of volunteers working together. There's lots of good spirit as a team, and we go into a homeless hostel and try and work with these people. And it's been fairly tricky. Sometimes it's been hard to connect with them. We're used to working in hostels where we get lots of engagement. It's been really difficult, and there's been a few highlights where we've done fires together, cooking marshmallows on an open pit, a few significant conversations doing pancakes, but then sometimes nobody's around at all, and so we've sort of weaved our way on like this. We've taken canoeing, but not many people came. Other times not many people turned up. And then under COVID, it's been pretty difficult. And so this has been our last year. It hasn't been particularly easy. So some of the highlights has been us as a team. So that's been really important, that we've stuck together and we've supported each other. Get a better pen. Support each other as a team. So that's been good. But attendance has been really challenging, and we've had to really work hard at that. And I suppose one of the questions we need to ask ourselves is, when we do this exercise, well, why is this low light so low? Well, we know there's external challenges we've had, but also just trying to build those relationships seem to be particularly difficult. And what has made the highlights so particularly high? Well, I suppose it's an established team, we've got complementary skills, etc. And I guess, going forward, what are some things we need to avoid in the future? Well, hopefully come outside the other side of COVID. Maybe we just need to find different ways of connecting with these young people that could be more effective. So we need to review the way that we build links with them and what we do on a Tuesday night, the night we go in. But with a team, what things can we build on as a team? What other things might we be better doing as well? Are there other social things that we could do? We've got all the skills for connecting with people, we'd use ourselves. And the ultimate thing is, what can we learn for the next time or the future? So if you're running a project, this is a great exercise just to reflect back over how it's gone so you can plan to the future. But also, you sit together as a group and discuss this. And some groups stick these up in church or in their community hall and get people to look at it and discuss it. So that's the timeline.
Okay, so now I want to show you a timeline in a bit more detail and over a longer time scale. Bill talked about a year in the life of our befriending project at the hostel for homeless young people. And this timeline that I'm showing you shows how this work first started. So we're starting our timeline back in 2006 because that's when there was a significant event in our town that gave rise to other spin-off projects, including the homeless hostel. This event was called The Big Idea, and it was a Churches Together event, and members of our church, Wokingham Baptist, were very key in having the vision in the first place and in organising it. So The Big Idea was really a gift to our community, and over the course of the week that it was on, there were several initiatives, including a tea party, litter picks, concerts, stalls, giving away pizza, ice cream, and also a community mural painted in a rundown estate. We connected with a lot of young people during this week, who at that time were spending a lot of time on the streets, hanging about, and this led to our church starting street work on a Friday night. And that in turn led to the start of the drop-in, which was held at our church, and members of our congregation of all ages became volunteers to welcome the young people into a safe place to chat or play games. Food and hot chocolate were provided too. And this work was validated by the council, and we had a good team of volunteers. But then, as you can see, the line descends below the timeline, as we noticed that the numbers were dropping off and there seemed to be no longer a demand for the drop-in. One of the reasons for this, of course, was that there were less people out and about, and they were mostly indoors behind some kind of screen, playing computer games or on social media. But by this time, we had a great team of volunteers committed to youth work, and so a group of 6 volunteers began to visit a hostel for homeless young people, to befriend them, to listen to their challenges, and to take them out to climbing walls, canoeing, raft races. Over the next 10 years, we had some tremendous high points as well as profoundly low ones, including a suicide and times of disappointment when the young people made poor choices and got themselves into trouble. But importantly, we've been a constant presence through all of this, offering unconditional love and acceptance. The last couple of years have been particularly tough, as the hostel was closed due to not being fit for purpose and was relocated under new management. So again, the line dips. It took a while to gain trust from these people who were suspicious of the church, but eventually we were allowed to visit. In the last year, as you can see, the line has dipped again because we made a big mistake in trusting an ex-resident too much. Unbeknown to us, he had become caught up in drugs, and we suspect County Line's drug trafficking. And he asked if he could come bowling with us, with the current residents, and while that evening was going on, he supplied one of them with drugs. And so, once more, we were not allowed to visit the hostel. But this was good learning for us, and we went through a rigorous safeguarding process. And after a pause, we were eventually allowed back to visit again. We have now put in much more rigorous boundaries. And so now we have COVID and another pause in our visits. But looking at this timeline, we can see that we have become strong as a team and have built on the highlights and learned from the low points. And we look forward to when we can put this learning into practice again.